Welcome MCA learning community to our back to school question and answer presentation. The goal over the next hour or so is to review some questions that our learning community has been reaching out to us concerning back to school. We understand that this is a trying time for all of us and hope and pray this will all be over soon and we all can go back to our normal everyday lives. I'd like to thank everyone for logging on today and also thank parents and guardians that have reached out to us with questions. Today, our administration will discuss our reopening plan as well as address the research we are using to base our decisions. A major request that we ask parents is to complete our back to school survey, which tells us your desired choice for your son or daughter concerning back to school. We will be discussing more about the surveys later in the presentation. Even after the conclusion of this presentation, our main district website will have our posted video. Families can continue to email our administration questions at pandemic-team@mca.k12.pa.us. Our administration will get back to you as soon as possible. As always, do not hesitate to reach out by phone as well to your specific school building at 570-339-1500. Let's start with our presentation. We all realize and acknowledge that anything short of a full return for all students creates hardships for our learning community. Some of those hardships will be child care coverage for families, as well as other negative impacts of a possible school closure would have on our children. Some of these impacts include mental health services, food services, and the fact that it is our belief that nothing replaces face-to-face instruction with your child's Mount Carmel area teacher. All of these items will be discussed in more detail later in our presentation. As discussed in our back to school presentation that was posted last week on July 20th, our health and safety plan is a guide and again is posted currently on our main district website. This document is ever fluid in that new information comes out almost daily, if not weekly. We will adapt and change that plan based on new information. We are also mindful of the fact that as long as COVID exists in our community, no strategy completely eliminates the risk of transmission. Our schools were not built for social distancing. No school in our country was. The goal of our administration is to keep transmission risks as low as possible to safely continue school activities. Our presentation today will hopefully explain how we will make that happen at MCA. Please review our back to school PowerPoint and health plan, again found on our main website. The following are resources our administration will share with all of you during our presentation. We are continually reviewing updates and will make necessary changes based on new information and guidance. I can also say that I have personally been meeting with other local superintendents to discuss their planning for the start of the school year. Each learning community has distinct needs and characteristics, but it is good for me as a new superintendent to hear what other local school districts are thinking, as well as an opportunity for our leadership team to discuss our plan at Mount Carmel area, as well as have a back and forth between local school districts. Our local CSIU has also been influential in bringing local school districts together weekly to discuss back to school planning. And for that, I would like to thank them. As you can see from this slide, the resources we will be using is the Pennsylvania Department of Education, the Pennsylvania Department of Health, the Center for Disease Control, the CDC, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the Environmental Protection Agency, local medical experts, including those at Geisinger and Evangelical, Northumberland County Emergency Management Department, and again, local school districts as well as out-of-county school districts. From early on this summer, our administration has been planning for the following options. Again, what we have all learned that at a drop of a dime, information and guidance will change. For all we know, by the time we post this video, new guidance will come out and change our planning for back to school. What I can tell you is that our administration has been working very hard to plan for any and all options listed here, such as a full return, a virtual option, and a hybrid option, where only a certain number of students would be allowed to enter our buildings on any given day. We are also preparing for the possibility of moving back and forth between all three options during the 2021 school year. We are asking again that all families at least prepare for these options related to childcare. As a father of 2 young boys, I must prepare for this scenario as well as understand the difficulties that ensue with childcare. Our summer 2020 PowerPoint is also found on the main website for your review. This document reviews in more details about the possible hybrid options and virtual options. Before we discuss our option number 1, full return, I would like to briefly discuss the research we are using to support our decision for a full return to school, option number 1. The first is from the American Academy of Pediatrics that urges return to school students in class learning. I have attached the link here so families can read this guidance at their leisure. The AAP cites concerns with social and emotional benefits, healthy meals, mental health, and other supports that cannot be easily replicated in an online model. Research also by Kufield acknowledges that closure of school buildings likely lead to substantial educational losses, especially to disadvantaged and low socioeconomic students. There are less opportunities for these students to learn from home. Also, the CDC issued guidance this week that describes the importance of opening American schools this fall. The attached link can be read at your leisure. The CDC also cites the social, emotional, and behavioral health and economic well-being and achievement of children in both the short-term and long-term are significant. Aside from the child's home, no other setting has more influence on a child's health and well-being than their school, according to the CDC. Let's now review our option number 1. Again, we are calling this option full return. The first day of school for Mount Carmel area is August 24th. Families at this point will be given 2 choices, 100% in-person instruction or 100% online instruction. MCA will ask families to tell us their desired option on a monthly basis by the 1st of every month. We are asking all families to complete a survey by this Friday, July 31st, telling us of their specific chosen option. This data will allow our administration to do more planning leading into the start of the school year. Families' surveys are again found on our main website, www.mca.k12.pa.us, and our administration will talk more about those surveys later on in our presentation. Under option number 1, full return, we will use what is called synchronous learning, where the student will log into their specific MCA teacher's Google Classroom and Google Meet during specific times of their predetermined schedule in their day. Students will not be expected to log on for 7 straight hours each day, but we will take attendance every period and expect the student to be logged on at specific times during the day. There will also be an asynchronous option where students can view a recording of the lesson at a later time. Student expectations will be to complete specific assignments within 24 hours that will count as an attendance record. There is a back-to-school fact sheet that is found on our main website that goes into more details. At this time, I'd like to pass it on to elementary principal, Mrs. Stepanaski.
Okay, so some of the questions that we've been having are, what will school look like if your child physically returns? Like, what are we doing to make our school safer? Mount Carmel area has purchased face masks for all students and staff. Personal protective equipment has been added to classrooms. Student desk dividers have been purchased for all students. We will also follow our health and safety plan, which is on our website, to clean and sanitize our buildings. And one-way direction hallways will be utilized. Large group gatherings in the cafeteria or auditorium will be limited to enable for social distancing. Here's some pictures of some of the safety precautions that we will have in place, the masks that we are providing for all students and staff. And there's also a picture of the desk shields that we purchase for all students. And teachers have the option to get classroom dividers to put up into their classroom to kind of form a barrier between them and their students, kind of like the desk shields, and staff can also request N95 masks. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Dara, the junior high principal.
Mr. Cheddar mentioned before that every family basically has 2 options for the student in their household, which would be 100% in person or 100% online. So we're asking that you visit our school's website and refer to the sites below to fill out a Google form. We'll have different forms for a junior, senior high student compared to an elementary student. We are asking that each family fill out one form per student, and if you have two students in separate buildings, to use a form from both buildings. I'm going to turn it back over now to Mrs. Stepanowski.
Okay, question number 1. We've been receiving a lot of questions from parents regarding masks and face coverings. You'll notice there that there's links that you can refer to for more information regarding the governor's mask wearing order. Just some things: all staff and students must wear a face covering that covers their nose and mouth. Cloth masks are the safest. However, plastic face shields can be worn as long as they cover the nose and the mouth. One of the documents there will talk about what type of mask complies with the governor's order. Again, as long as it covers the nose and the mouth, and it can be made of a variety of synthetic or natural fabrics, including cotton, silk, or linen. And for the purposes of the order, as I mentioned, plastic face shields that cover the nose and the mouth would also be acceptable. One of the questions we're having is, does a child have to keep their mask on all day? There are 3 main times in the day that your child can remove their mask, and that is if they are eating or drinking and they're spaced at least 6 feet apart, they're seated at their desk or their assigned workspace at least 6 feet apart, or they're engaged in any activity at least 6 feet apart, for example, face covering breaks or recess. The teachers will also be scheduling face covering breaks throughout the day. One of the other questions that we are posed with is, what if my child has asthma or other respiratory issues? One thing that we could suggest is that a face shield might be easier for them to breathe. You can also contact your physician for their thoughts on your child wearing a mask and obtain a note if they feel that your child should not wear a face covering. Now, we would need recommendation from your physician, and we could then set up a 504 plan meeting or a revision to an individualized education plan. Another link here under face covering sections, it just gives the order, the specific order of children 2 years or older are required to wear a face covering unless they have a medical or mental health condition or disability documented with Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, or IDEA. That precludes the wearing of a face covering in school. So accommodations will be made based on information from your healthcare provider and the IEP or 504 team. So if you have any issues with the face mask due to your child having a medical condition, you can contact the school and we'll give you more information. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Nestico, the elementary school principal.
Okay, another question that we have been getting, which is a very important one, is what will transportation look like? There is a link provided here for you to reference. We are obviously following the Pennsylvania Department of Health guidance to the absolute best of our ability. Some highlights of what you will find there is that any students riding a bus and the bus drivers will all be required to wear a mask on the bus. In order to reduce the number of students on the bus, we are currently working on and redoing bus runs to limit the amount of students. We will have assigned seating on the buses, and we will load school buses from the back to the front to avoid students passing each other while getting on and off the bus. We have also encouraged families to provide alternative modes of transportation when and where possible. We are also working on plans for different staggered drop-off times and or places for those parents able to transport their children to schools. Additional CDC guidance being followed includes disinfecting buses after each run, and buses will also thoroughly be cleaned and disinfected daily. When weather permits, windows will be open to improve ventilation. And we ask, especially if your child is taking a bus, we ask all families to please contact the school if you have moved, and provide the school with your new address so that we're able to accurately plan for bus transportation for all of our students. And now we'll go back to Mrs. Stepanaski, our assistant principal at the elementary.
Question number 3, must parents screen their child before sending them to school? Yes, as per the CDC guidelines, which there's a link at the bottom of this page, you will, parents will be asked to do a screening, and there's a screening tool right here that you could see a picture of. And that screening tool includes taking their temperature. We are also, our school nurses are putting together a how-to informational video, and it will be on the district website soon. So they will walk you through the screening tool and what needs to be done in order for your child to be cleared to come to school. And if your child is sick or has any of the symptoms on the screening tool, we are asking that you keep your child home. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Cheddar.
So our question number 4 relates to what will happen if someone is COVID positive. A lot of families have been reaching out with this specific question. So we will be following PA Department of Health guidelines when faced with a positive case. Our first and immediate step would be to contact the PA Department of Health at 1-877-PA-HEALTH. This is common current protocol for all of us in everyday life, not just for schools. The current guidance is listed. Please review at your leisure. The PA Department of Health will lead us through what is called a risk assessment, and we will follow strict confidentiality of all possible cases. We are also following CDC guidance for what is called an exposure. That guidance is also listed for your convenience from the CDC on this slide. Currently, the CDC is calling an exposure when someone is in contact with a COVID positive for over 15 minutes and within 6 feet. Depending on whether an individual is wearing a mask or not would be a major reason or part of why a risk assessment may need to be completed and precautions moving forward. Again, let me stress, this is now part of everyday life as far as recommendations for any of us if we are in contact with a COVID positive. That could be at work, it could be at the gym, it could be at the supermarket, it could be at a graduation party, or in our case, in school. The first step for any of us, again, is to contact the PA Department of Health. New guidance was just issued just a few days ago concerning contact tracing by the CDC, and that is also included here. Again, please review those guidelines at your leisure. And at this point, I'm going to pass it on to Mrs. Edmondson, our special ed coordinator.
Hello. So question number 5 is, how is lunch going to work? So as we previously stated, we want to limit large group gatherings and enable social distancing as much as possible. So we're looking at using the cafeteria and the gymnasium in both buildings, possibly additional spaces if needed. So again, we want to limit those large group gatherings. And you can see the link for meals and cafeteria guidance from the Department of Education. And then also, Mount Carmel Area Food Service money deposit options can also be accessed through our website. And I'm going to pass it on to Mr. Dara.
Question number 6, dealing with the junior senior high school. What will hallways look like when the bell rings? So we have taken several precautions in order to prevent crowding in our hallways. We are going to post signage in the hallways and arrows to ensure that all our hallways are one way. So students will all be walking the same direction when transitioning from class to class. So there will never be an instance of students walking across one another face to face. We are also instituting a staggered bell schedule. The standard time to get to each class will be 2 minutes. What we are asking our teachers to do is our 7th and 9th grade teachers will dismiss their students 2 minutes early. Our 8th and 10th grade teachers will dismiss their student 1 minute early. And our 11th and 12th grade teachers will dismiss their students on time, but allow them to arrive to class 1 minute late. Now, on to Mrs. Nestico.
So similar to what Mr. Dara was explaining as what that looks like in the junior senior high school, I will speak to that question in regards to the elementary school as well. Grades 4 through 6, they will remain departmentalized in terms of instruction. Teachers will still teach by their core content area. However, students will remain in their homerooms, and rather than have students in the halls rotating every period, teachers will rotate classrooms. All class homeroom lists were completed with an effort to maintain the same student cohort for the majority of the day in order to prevent spread and in order, if necessary, to better trace any potential contacts or exposures. The elementary school will have all one-way directional steps. Certain steps will be designated as steps to go up, and others will be designated as steps to go down. Students will eat outside of the classroom. They will either eat in the gym or the cafeteria. They will have recess. Recess, however, the recess yard will be zoned, and we will limit the amount of classes that are permitted to go out to recess at the same time. So it will be a much more specific recess schedule, and students will be able to take their masks off as long as they're socially distanced at recess. Additionally, special classes, gym, art, and physical education will be taught in the homeroom classes. Those teachers will also rotate from homeroom class to homeroom class. When the weather permits, physical education courses will be held outside. So if moving on, we also need to talk about technology. A lot of folks asked, will all students get a district Chromebook? The answer to that question is yes. We will make arrangements for parents to pick up Chromebooks if they choose a virtual option for education. We will do it on a case-by-case basis. The district has also ordered over 800 new Chromebooks in June. Those Chromebooks will be rolled out across grade levels as we receive them. The goal is that all students, whether in school or out of school, will eventually have one device, one Chromebook per student. And now I'll turn it back to Mr. Cheddar, our superintendent.
So our next question relates to, does the current governor mitigation order applies to schools, for example, 25 or less people indoors? So the current order provided by the PA Department of Health is attached here for your review, states that schools do not fall under the current 25 indoor mandate. Non-instructional school activities, though, such as school board meetings or after-school activities or athletic events, do apply to this order. Under this current order, we must also adhere to the 250 total people allowable outside for any gathering. Again, the PA Department of Health guidance is listed here for your convenience. The latest guidance was an update on the July 16th update that will be continuing contact with the Department of Health, again, looking for additional guidelines as we're moving forward to our start date of August 24th. Mrs. Rano, our high school principal, is up next to discuss some cleaning protocols.
Hello. The Pennsylvania Department of Health has also issued guidance, which includes information on hand hygiene, cleaning, and disinfection. That guidance is located here for your reference if you would like to read more about that. Measures have been taken in order to safely return to school, including allowing students to carry water bottles, as all water fountains will be closed for public use. Additionally, hand sanitization stations have been set up in classrooms and in hallways. Our maintenance staff has been working hard to implement and supervise daily and weekly COVID-19 cleaning activities. Administrators will be overseeing this, and classroom and common areas will be ventilated to allow for additional circulation of outdoor air whenever possible. I will now turn it over to Mrs. Nestico.
Thank you, Mrs. Verano. I did speak about this earlier, but there were a lot of questions from parents asking again what recess, gym class, and music would look like. The link is provided here for you to review at your leisure to see the specific details of the guidance that we are following as given from the Pennsylvania Department of Health. As I mentioned before, gym classes will be outside when possible and when weather permits. Gym, art, and music teachers will rotate into classrooms in order to limit movement and keep student cohorts together. And in choosing the virtual option, synchronous scheduled classes and login times will be available for virtual participation of students at home. And I will turn it back to Mrs. Stepanaski, our assistant principal at the elementary.
Okay, question number 11. Would it be possible to start my child off as full return in person and then switch to online, or vice versa if I decide the option I chose is not working out for him? Yes. As Mr. Cheddar mentioned in the beginning of our presentation, we will ask families for your desired option of in-person or online instruction every first of the month. So the first choice that you picked on the survey that Mr. Dara talked about is for August 24th through September 30th. And then if you aren't happy with the choice that you made, you can switch starting October 1st. Now, if you have any concerns with your chosen instructional method for your children at any time, you can contact the principal's office. Now I'll turn it over to Mrs. Edmondson.
So question 12, some parents were asking, if my child attends school remotely, will I have access to breakfast and lunch? So yes, the children that are staying home and going to school remotely, our food service, which is Nutrition Inc., will communicate a schedule soon so that all of our students in our district will still have access to breakfast and lunch. Question number 13, will there be an orientation or open house for our students? So yes, we're planning virtual orientation and open house for most grades. And typically we have an orientation for our 7th graders and our kindergarten students, since they will be new to buildings that they are going into. So for 7th graders who will be new to our junior and senior high school, we'll have more information to come. We'll have on the first day of school, we'll spend time with our 7th grade students to get an orientation of the new building so that they can be taken around to see where the rooms are located, any procedures, that would be new to them, using their lockers, where the cafeteria is, where the gym is, and all of the different places they'll need to know in order to be in the junior, senior high school. And then for kindergarten, our new students in the elementary school, more information will be coming for our kindergarten students. And now I'll pass it back to Mr. Cheddar.
Question 14 relates, parents are asking about our safety initiatives and will we still be using the metal detector in both buildings? And the answer is yes. The metal detector will be in use in both buildings, the junior, senior high school and our elementary school. Also in the junior, senior high, we are also utilizing the large bag room for any bags or items that is anything larger than a book bag. So for an athlete or a band member, that is a location where you will store large items that will not be going into your locker. Again, that room is right across from our main office on our first floor. At this time, I'll pass it off to Mrs. Rano, our high school principal.
In addition to receiving questions about the opening of both of our buildings, we've also been receiving questions about the Northumberland County Career and Technical Center. The Northumberland County Career and Technical Center will be in session beginning on Monday, August 24th. Information specific to the opening of their buildings will be provided on their district website. That website link is located on this slide. If you have any other questions or you need any other information, you could also reach out to Dr. Catino. Mr. Cheddar?
The next question, everyone, relates to privacy issues if I chose the remote or virtual option. Again, this is another great question. This is a major question, was a major question for our administration when we began planning for our option number 1, full return, especially with our teachers. We feel at this time we are making every effort to protect the privacy of both students in the classroom and those that will be home virtually. The way we teach under this pandemic must inevitably change to some extent. Teachers have always walked around the physical classroom during any given class period, helping students throughout the day. Now teachers will be in front of the classroom at arm's length of the computer, delivering maybe a 5, 10, or 15-minute instruction portion of the lesson, for example. After the actual instruction portion has ended, the student at home can choose to stay in the virtual classroom muted. They can then chat the teacher privately via Google Meet. The teacher will then have the availability to walk around the physical classroom and aid the students in the classroom if they have any questions. Students at home will not be seen by the students in the physical classroom and vice versa. Our teachers will have the immediate ability to remove or mute any student from the virtual classroom or within the physical classroom for any inappropriate behavior. Our district is currently adopting a board policy related to virtual instruction. More information on this policy will be coming and will be discussed at our August school board meeting, August 13th. At this time, I'll pass it on to Elementary Assistant Principal, Mrs. Stepanaski.
Question number 17, will students be 6 feet apart in the classrooms? Several of our parents have had this question. There's a link at the bottom of the page here that explains that students and staff should maintain 6 feet apart when feasible. When it is not possible for the students to be 6 feet apart, they will be wearing masks. One of the things that we're doing to make more rooms in the classrooms is that we're having the teachers remove anything that's not 100% necessary to make more space in order to social distance the students. And then question 18, will there be in-person parent meetings, parent-teacher conferences, etc.? Our plan right now is to schedule all meetings virtually to limit the number of people entering the buildings. And I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Nestico for question number 19.
Thank you. We've also had a number of questions from parents of the parents who will be new kindergarten students for the 2021 school year. Kindergarten screenings that are normally scheduled and conducted throughout the summer months will not be held this year due to COVID. There's just no safe way to do it, and keeping everyone safe definitely takes precedence. The teachers will be able to do some other initial screenings once we actually start school following August 24th. Kindergarten teacher assignment letters will be mailed approximately the second week of August. Additional information regarding kindergarten orientation information and options will be forthcoming. Please check for that in the mail at the same time that teacher assignment letters are received. Back to you, Mr. Cheddar.
Again, as we conclude our presentation today, I would like to take a moment to thank our district administration for putting in long hours in our preparation for return to school. We hope this question and answer session was beneficial in answering some of the many questions that we know many of you have regarding back to school. Again, as we all have learned, information, guidance, recommendations, and mandates related to COVID-19 pandemic is constantly changing. Our administration will continue to communicate with our learning community as soon as new information is provided. I will ask that all parents get in the habit of continually checking back to our main website for updates. This will be the first location we will put updated information. Please, again, continue to reach out to us using the pandemic-team@mca.k12.pa.us email provided, or call any building administrator with any additional questions or concerns. Again, thank you for all your time, and we hope everyone has a great evening.